Hello and welcome to the North American Overwatch Contenders Summer Series. This is day 2, and this is about to separate the wheat from the chaff, the weak from the strong, to see who's going to make it on to day 3, the top 16. We got a best of 3 rocking for you here tonight. I'm Los, joined by my man Vincent. Vincent, rest in peace to Hanamura, but how are you doing right now?
I'm doing good. I'm sad. You know, Hanamura gone. That's why I'm sitting here in Hanamura. It's a beautiful place. But I'm absolutely pumped to get things started. This is going to be a great time. We got 2 good teams. We got some Overwatch 2 to play, and I'm pumped for it, man.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, talk about the teams very briefly. It's Cryx now. A little bit of internal debate on how that's pronounced. I personally don't agree with it. Cryx, you may have seen them if you were checking out the Open Division. They placed top 16, while Smog a little bit better, a little bit stronger in the top 12 section. So some squads that have grinded their way to get to this position, and they're not done, not by a long shot. So it's going to be a first to 3 for these 2 teams, and we'll see who will make it out on top. And I believe our first map tonight is going to be Oasis.
Oh, okay then. I'm excited to see Oasis. By the way,
Nepal? I was
lied.
totally wrong.
Los,
I was totally wrong. I don't know why I said that.
You did this in the finals, and you're doing it here again. I can't believe you.
I almost said Ilios, to be honest. So
you were almost even more wrong? This is tragic.
What would you consider Oasis or Ilios closer to Nepal?
You know what? I'm going to choose to plead the 5th because I don't know geography. So we're just going to keep it at that. Yeah, I was going to say fun fact about Smoj. They actually lost to SVU, a team that you and I are pretty familiar with. So really, really cool to see them back here and on this one. And the other thing is, Smosh actually were the one that wants to pick out Nepal. They get to pick being the higher seed, and well, things are a little bit different. We are into the round of 32, and you could have picked anything. We are starting with control, but this could have been hybrid, escort, push, anything at all. But from now on, it is going to be loser pick. So it is standard from here on out.
Hey, you know, when you give teams freedom, sometimes they want to keep it basic. They want to bring it back to that familiar feeling. It makes it a lot more official. But, you know, as we all know, the sky is the limit. Losers pick. And I'm excited to see where we'll head for map 2. Maybe check out one of the newer maps. You know, guys, it's a new game. We got plenty of new maps to check out. We can do them. It's not illegal yet. They're online. But, I mean, speaking of new options, who are we thinking in terms of, I mean, Junker Queen, right? Is that who we're expecting to see for most of these games?
You've caught me. I was writing the script out, and it is Junker Queen. I've been exposed. No, I mean, we saw a lot of Junker Queen yesterday, and in addition to that, we saw a lot of Sojourn. And so I'm excited to see that once again. More than likely, I feel like we're going to be in that same realm of reality. There was some whisperings in my ear that there could be something a little bit more divey on the line, but I have yet to see that like actually happen. So I don't know for sure, but probably going to see more of that Junker Queen. And in addition to that, Lucio Moira.
Yeah, we specifically got to talk about Moira. It's the topic of the day. It's the Necrotic Orb. A major hit to that damage reduction, 75% on anyone who's hit with that. It's kind of like the sleep dart, but everybody gets to suffer along with you.
Well, once again, we have to go into our sadness, because no longer can I be a damage or Moira only.
Oh no, the DPS ruined. They take another hit.
It's tragic, I know. But my DPS Moira, no longer plausible. But yes, I do think it's a really cool change, mostly because of the fact that it was so like one thing or the other previously. Now you kind of have more to the kit. There's more of good decision making, and it's more of a skill shot too, which I think is cool. Before with the orb, you really like you aimed it, but once you threw it out there, it was like kind of floating wherever you go. Now it's a bit more of a skill shot, which I think is really cool, and I think actually ups the skill floor for that hero a lot.
Yeah, because in those quick, intense situations, it might be difficult to try and land that perfect shot. And I also think it's going to be pretty solid when you're entering into those 1v1s on the side where maybe you're getting flanked. You hit them with the necrotic orb. I'm going to... They're weakened, one of the few words that we'll use to describe how that affects you. When you hit them with the 1v1, when you're trying to get hit in the back line with a diver, that's actually critical in saving your own skin and kind of just stalling for time for one of your teammates to come and give you that peel.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I'm really curious how those sort of interactions are going to go. And I feel like we haven't had too much time to see it, even just because of how recent the patch came through. The other thing I want to talk about, we talked a lot about Smoge though. Well, let's talk a little bit more about Cryx as we look towards Nepal. I think we're close to getting started. So, but this squad, it's a core 3, and then Never Fade Away and Kindred joining in with Wicca, Karova, and Rymazing. I think it's going to be good. Like we were talking about, that core in OD just a month ago did really well. Did not quite as well, at least placement wise, as Smoge, but when you get into that like top 16 area, I feel like everybody's sort of around the same level unless you're like winning.
And we can say that neither of these teams did that in the very end, but they are very close to each other. We're talking seeding. Cryx is at number 19, while Smoge is number 14, so just 5 teams away. That's not a major difference. I mean, also talking about their placements, just 4 teams away, not a real big deal. But now we're about to see who's going to come on top since they hadn't had that chance to really get to know each other.
Yeah, I'm very excited as well for this Light Psy duo up here. This is going to be a good time, but it's Kuffa to start things out.
Oh yeah, of course. Come on, starting out with the Junker Queen. Carnage started things off, picking up 2. And that should be a bit of pause, force them back to their spawn, wait for the last 2 to get back in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, Kuffa might have started that out, but Light made sure it was over with that railgun as the instant regroup for Cryx. And they couldn't even charge anything up on towards the ultimate. The first cap over to Smoge, and this is exactly what you would like to see on Control.
Okay, here comes a little bit of a roundabout play, trying to avoid the majority of the damage, but they won't be given any pause. You've got Psy on the sideline, making sure that this healer has no chance to give them the safety. Wicca's all gone, and it feels like everyone on the side of Cryx is a little bit scattered.
Well, they are. I mean, they had to spread out just a little bit, but Never Fade Away doing a really good job of taking these duels in towards the Genji and the cap over. It's actually Smoge who are a little bit split. They have had to regroup, and with Psy going over the top, I think it's going to be a multi-pronged approach.
Oh, it has to. Okay. Well,
never mind.
With Psy gone, that's kind of it. There it is. Well, no. Never Fade Away. They want a little bit more. They're not done with it. Just make them feel more insecure in this moment.
Yeah, and I mean, nice find as well with the disruptor shot. It does well to catch, I think, 1 additional player, and Cryx just farming up, approaching that 50% as well. So Smoge gonna have to turn this up to 11 if they want a chance.
Of course, but here comes the real fight, and exactly in that moment, Rymazing removes Kuffa from play. There goes your buffer for any sort of offensive plays, and followed up with Karova's Coalescence. That's pretty much it. Another fight for Cryx.
Yeah, I mean, listen, whenever that axe gets taken out, it's called Carnage for a reason, Los. It was pretty brutal, and Cryx going to confirm off the back of that. Now Rymazing does have that Sojourn ultimate, the overclock, ready to go.
Okay, here it is. Waiting for these big shots. Send them to the back. They will all be able to line up in their attempt to run away. And it does allow them to remove Neptune. Such a simple fight to corner them in this tight space.
And Rymazing didn't necessarily get all the finishing blows there, but the massive damage done by that overclock is exactly why we're seeing so much Sojourn being played at this moment. But Kuffa swapping over to the balls to make sure that the overtime can start ticking, and it has, with 3 ults, 4 even, ready to go.
Of course. Oh, and now it's followed up with Light, doing a little bit of damage, followed up with the duplication. If you could earn that Dragon Blade in this moment, it could be critical, but there is also removal. Never Fade Away tried to bring out their own, but it was defeated. Finally, Smoj is on top.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it got a little dicey there. We saw Kurova fade out of the Dragon Blade, but Sai able to eventually track them down, and meanwhile, the rest of the team finished up the fight. It took all of their ults, though. Kuffa swapped back over to the Junker Queen, and now Neptune really is the one to be looking at here with this sound barrier ready to go, and the only ultimate available.
Okay, pushing them back a little bit. I think the pincer maneuver could be the critical play. If you can divide the focus of attention, it will be solved. The sound barrier committed by Wicca, but they still lose out on Kurova. That is going to be a critical loss if they can't keep that heal in play. Follow it up by the Rampage, but it doesn't make too much of a connection. Besides Abyss, yet Abyss is all cut off, unable to deliver that healing support to the rest of the team. And we'll have Kuffa try and stall it out.
Yeah, and nice move there at the end by Wicca as well. She did a good job making sure that Kuffa couldn't get back into that fight. But, you know, the problem with using that sound barrier in sort of the initiation to that fight is that you don't have it for the Junker Queen. The Rampage just comes alive, and you're suddenly down 3 players because of it. So, some interesting decision-making there from Kyrix, and unfortunately, it's an easy win, for Smoj, and it unfortunately gives Kyrix that lead.
So I'm thinking things come down to, obviously, the first pick, because now with only 5 players instead of 6, taking a pick like that can be so crucial. You don't have anyone to back it up. But Kuffa or Kindred, normally they're the ones to take that first final blow against each other. So if you lose out onto your tank, that kind of signals the rest of the fight.
Well, another interesting difference here. I mean, we got Abyss on the Brigida, so a difference that we haven't seen yet.
Well, it's good for closing the gap. I mean, that's kind of exactly what Kindred was hoping for, especially behind 3 different players here for Smoj. This is a firing range, or maybe the chopping block that Smoj has found themselves upon.
Yeah, and that's the power of the commanding shout. I think that's really, we're going to learn more and more that commanding shout is one of the best abilities the Junker Queen has to offer. You saw the initiation there on the commanding shout, just perfectly played, and Kyrix showing that they have this down and they're ready to go. We are already seeing the re-engage, though. No ultimate just yet. Kurova is farming up for that.
Okay, keeping them in the corner. That's the major gameplay. Do not allow Smoj to take any ground. And they're actually removing it away. They're turning the offensive back to Smoj, forcing them again back toward their own entrance to the fight. But there's no escape with such open ground for them to try and run away.
All right. Point number 1 for Wicca in the Lucio duel. Wicca versus Neptune. Wicca won that one. Round 1 goes to her. But as we look to regroup, it is, I mean, this fight is pretty important as we approach the 50% mark, because Sai's the only one alongside Neptune to really be approaching an ultimate of any kind. And, well, I've been told reliably that this Dragon Blade hasn't necessarily been so effective in at least thus far.
It just feels like it could be doing more damage even when you consider the possibility with the Negratagor, but no, it's the Coalitions that needs to be worried about now. Another moment in time where Smoj just cannot get an edge. The zoning that's being brought out by Kyrix is just too much. Even if Light wants to get a side angle for a kill, well, maybe here's an opening. They got 1 kill onto Rai, amazing, but it followed up with a double beat drop, so this is going to last for quite some time.
Yeah, but I mean, that really just stalls things out even further. It just allows an opportunity for the blade to come through, and it will. This should confirm the fight.
Never Fade Away, just 1% away from pulling out the dueling dragons. Not to be. And now it'll be just a bit more stalling eliminations here against Kyrix.
Yeah, Smoj, I don't think that this Brigida is necessarily a bad decision, but it certainly has not been good for these long drawn-out fights that we've been seeing, as Kyrix doing exactly what they need in order to keep control for the majority of this one. And the problem is how does Smoj hold on to that? They don't have any ultimates to work with.
I'm not sure, but here comes that Dragon Blade that Never Fade Away was hoping for, but it's a huge anti coming out from Kuffa with the Rampage, unable to keep that sustain, giving the damage. And another moment in time, well, Cryx, let's flip the tables. They're going to take back the objective and maybe the game.
Yeah. They will be able to touch Will Smudge, but they don't have the tools at their disposal, and Neptune's already gone, Los.
Not even a second to get that contest. No stall involved. You'll have another attempt from Psy. They might be able to escape, but you can't deflect the carnage brought by Kindred. However, somehow they're staying alive. The sustain, the melee damage, and the vamp with those abilities is just too strong.
What a great job for Chroma keeping up the tank of Kindred. And with that, Cryx going to be able to take that first map. Nepal going their way off the back of some fantastic Junker Queen play.
I think that's the story of the day, is keep your Junker Queen alive. If you have that sustain, just the commanding shout on top of it to keep you fighting, it's a war of attrition based off of a singular hero. Of course, everyone else is doing their part, but in terms of strategy, as long as you keep your tank alive, your queen alive, that's going to be a huge key of success.
Yeah, and it was right there. We saw consistently, even when Cryx were losing a fight, they were doing a really good job of pulling out these ultimates, whether that be specifically Neptune's sound barrier. We saw multiple times where it was just a sound barrier trade, and because Cryx were getting more value out of their DPS ultimates, that was great for them because they were maybe trading a sound barrier plus light, pulling out an ultimate of their own. Maybe you see the overclock or something like that. It was really not ideal, and Cryx would come into the next fight and basically take a free win.
And I also think in terms of Cryx taking free wins is they had such great map control against Smoj. They were never able to find their own avenue to get into an engagement. They always played into the hands of Cryx, so it's incredibly difficult for them to walk on through if you're always going into the open arms of your opponent.
Well, things might change as we head to our second map. It is going to be Eichenwald, and I'm excited. I think this is going to be interesting. Obviously, Smoj get the opportunity to pick this one up, and trying to think about how this would fit, what Smoj were trying to do. I don't know necessarily if the Brigida works on a map like Eichenwald, because there's just, especially once you get past the first point, there's just so much space to work with. But I think this is going to be interesting. If there's anywhere we're really going to see something different, it's going to be here. And Psy is definitely going to be able to play that echo that we were seeing over on the first stage in Nepal.
Oh yeah, there's so much open space for you to utilize that echo. And I'm surprised. I feel like we only got one real good use of that duplication. But I mean, Psy hadn't exactly had too much of an opportunity to find those plays on Echo. I mean, getting into those close range engagements, swapping over to the Genji, that was just a more favorable play when you're on the inside. But now, I'm excited to see what else they bring to the table. But starting things off, they're going to bring out the Soldier.
That they are. An interesting decision. I mean, to be fair, they are on the attack, so that could change. Cryx, understandably, going to be sticking with what they have. And I think this makes sense, Lewis, considering that they dominated, especially on the overwhelming majority of the fights. It was, suppose we're not out of it entirely, but they weren't overall successful either. And so I'm curious to see if they're gonna stick with this Zenyatta. They did have this Zenyatta before, so I wouldn't be surprised. And looks like, they're gonna stick with it. A little bit of additional damage with that Discord orb.
That should be solid. I'm also wondering, they have quite a bit of a static team, but on the other side, Cryx is very mobile in terms of this composition. But it doesn't matter. It all depends on how this first play is going to get made. Kuffa very out of position, but use that commanding shout to escape.
And that's the beauty of that commanding shout. It can be an engagement tool as well as a disengagement tool. So seeing Kuffa use it effectively, excited to see more as we get down to it. Smoj really have to close the distance, though, with this Reaper.
That's what they're looking for. Follow it up with the buff from the commanding shout. Give you that entrance, the opening. Psy in play, and a bit of a zoning. They're all over to the right side of the objective, but now Size found themselves caught away, unable to be helped and saved by the rest of the squad. Regardless, the first tick does go to Cryx.
But it's a bit of a trade back and forth. One down on either side. Of course, the advantage now to Kuffa.
Of course, great use of that shotgun, and another throw with the knife right to Never Fade Away's face. And that's 3 dead against Cryx, and a point capture.
That Jagged Blade doing a lot of work off the back of that one, and Kuffa showing exactly what we were talking about with the ability to engage and disengage easily with the commanding shout. And where we're seeing Kindred do a whole lot of work last map. Now it's Kuffa making the moves.
And what's so nice is with that Junker Queen, you just have such agency to use your abilities, short cooldowns, you get the poke, but now you've got a little bit of craziness coming in with Bob, and a perfect way to cut off that engaging tank. Never Fade Away will be the first one to fall, but they have so much more protection. Again, Kindred cut off from the rest of their team, but with the sustain, it's not even that big of a deal.
So they have used the Coalescence here, Cryx, and they just threw out the Overclock as well. And actually, they committed the sound barrier. That's crazy, the commitment that they just had without getting any sort of way back into that fight. Cryx are going to be kicking themselves for such disjointed commitment of the ultimates with 3 in there and not getting anything out of it.
Absolutely not. I mean,
What?
it's a moment of, come on now.
I mean, that's classic Overwatch. You love to see that, don't you?
That is fantastic. Waking up, walking out of your front door, and getting hit in the face with 5 orbs.
Yeah, you're yawning, and you're like, oh, let me start my day. No, sorry, back to spawn.
Well, you have some more time to think about your next approach, and I think that was actually helpful from Smoj. They want to give him more time. But no, sound barrier used, committed by Neptune, because they have more in the bank and might even build up to more with Sai as they're getting to that Death Blossom, but they don't even need it. Kuffa lighting up the kill feed, picking them apart one by one. Sure, a little bit of delay, but that's not stopping anything.
Yeah, and Sai is going to have the Death Blossom for next fight. But talking about that one, Kuffa, the engagement there with the Rampage, followed by the sound barrier, just perfection. And actually, Crank's going to get an additional fight, though that's not really a real fight, I guess.
The Dragon Blade committed, though.
Oh, no, you're right. That's tragic for Cryx. They thought they had it. They had it unlocked. Only they met Sai. Hi, Death Blossom here.
Oh my lord, dropping right into it outside of that front window, but now you've got Sai again waiting around the corner. A sneaky little rascal indeed, but this time they're not sticking around, backing off to fight in a more favorable zone.
Good for Kendrick to hold on to the Rampage, not overutilize that one. It could have been easy to maybe try to invest a little bit heavily there. Not gonna happen.
Transcendence is at the ready, starting it off with the Carnage. They'll back up. They've got Bob again to open up the fray. Lighting up the scene at the moment. That's already 2 dead for Cryx. If they want to make up and follow on that commitment, they do have to heal up first.
Smoj continuing this push. And like you said, Abyss has the Transcendence in hand, so there's really no way that they're going to be overwhelming. And I see that Smoj continuing.
They're nowhere near done. It starts off with the Transcendence, follow it up with a beat drop. Why not? It's not even necessary. Just a little bit of flex, I would say. But it is going to be fruitful. Smoj does clear it out with 3 minutes and 14 seconds to spare.
Bit of an early flex, what you say, Los. I mean, I feel like that wasn't guaranteed necessarily at that point, but do love to see it. Smoj, yeah, 3 minutes, 14 seconds. That ain't bad here on Eichenwald. And Cryx, you know, it felt like there was a couple of key fights where they overinvested, and because of that overinvestment, they were behind, and Smoj was just really, really smart with their own ult investments and were able to get the most out of everything that they had, just using, for example, that Death Blossom to confirm the fight win right before point 2.
Exactly, and looking at the ultimate usage from, I believe, Never Fade Away, who brought out that Dragon Blade the second they dropped over the door into the Death Blossom, never had a chance to use it. And it wasn't with a full team in terms of that aggress. I also want to talk about when they first broke in through that initial gate. It was such a scattered, disjointed fight that multiple ultimates were used by Cryx, but nothing really earned out of all of it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean that really is the turning point, I think, especially where they invested 3 ultimates at the beginning of the Streets phase essentially, and didn't get anything from there. It was not ideal. We'll just say that. Kindred actually tagged up right immediately with the Dragon Blade. Gonna take some damage from it. Obviously, that's gonna get healed up though as we engage into the fight.
Starting off, of course, it will be the Junker Queen start off the fight and isolating this 1 kill onto Abyss. That's critical. That's basically the first objective.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it wasn't just Abyss. It was actually Light who died first. They found Light in a exposed position, and that's, I mean, I keep going back to it. Maybe I'm a broken record, Los, but the commanding shout and the ability to close distance with that thing with the 30% boost to the movement speed is so powerful. And we saw that come to fruition there with Light going down early. So, Cryx in a good position as they open the doors.
At this point, of course, but the second they breach that gate, get to the other side, or a little bit more exposed, that's when the real fight is going to begin. Again, look at the engagement coming out from Kindred, and you have Sai right around the corner looking for the damage, but none to be found. The reaggress coming through from Smoge. The defenses are here, but the defenses are crumbling. Another one with the carnage falls Kindred. Junker Queen, there's a reason they call her the Queen.
Listen, Kindred got all of the final blows there, but Never Fade Away had a fantastic deflect. Did so much damage, I think, to Kuffa. It was just beautiful stuff there. Really enabled the rest of that fight to go down. The next fight is coming up, and Karava probably going to be the turning point here as long as they can get the Coalesce out.
Oh, Wicca seeking out to isolate that fight onto one of the supports, but Rymacing actually gets things popping here for Cryx. The Coalescence keeping the rest of the squad safe, but getting into this dark corner, this tight space could be an issue, yet that won't be an issue for Cryx at all, but they still have to deal. 2 players dead on their side, forcing out that sound barrier, and it gives them the win in this fight.
That was, I'm not sure if the sound barrier was particularly necessary there, but at least it confirms the fight. And you aren't coming into this next one entirely dry. I mean, both of the DPS are going to be coming close. And if Kindred is able to find the Rampage at some point in the fight, talk about a win condition, that'll be one.
I mean, they're on a race for it. 85, 89, both of them want it. I think whoever starts with it, whoever earns that ultimate first, will be the winner. Dragon Blade unable to get the kills and Never Fade Away falls courtesy of Bob. The deflection unable to provide them safety. And finally, Smoge has a victory.
Finally. It's been a long time coming, though. And they are doing what they can to at least find additional kills. Look at how far they're chasing. Finally, they've given it up, and Cryx going to be able to get back into this one. But Smoge have set themselves up well, right? I mean, they have a Death Blossom ready to go. They also have both picking up a Rampage into this one. So, realistically, it's just going to be a matter of Kindred, Kuffa. Who is able to get the most value out of that tank ult?
I think it has to be an engagement starting off with Kuffa, and there it is, because you keep the rest of your squad in safety. Everyone hit with the anti-Kuffa Sai, following it up with extreme damage back against Cryx, though, and they'll turn the fight back into their favor.
I am blown away at how they've just turned this one around. What a great initial push there, and I mean, it was three hit with the anti, right? I mean, that's what happened.
Yeah, it was a massive Rampage.
It was, but just the turnaround, and Cryx, they have to get back in here, try to find some space, and we have seen the swap. It's Sai over on towards the Echo, and this is what I was discussing in our pre-game, Los, is that this Echo is going to be very effective in this area.
Oh, great use of the sticky bombs the second they were leaving that zone. Walking into such awesome zoning mechanics being brought forth here by Smoge. Sai starting the fight off. The rest of the crew, Kuffa, Neptune finishing it.
And the difficulty is that I mean, it really is all on to Rymazing trying to deal with this aerial assault that's coming from Psy on the Echo. And I don't know. I'll be completely honest. Haven't played enough Sojourn to know how difficult it is to take care of a Pharah or an Echo with the hero. But what I do know is that Psy is making it very difficult.
Okay, nice use of that disruptor. Might keep him away from your fight, but Bob is here to play, and using such precious time to fight off that NPC is going to cut down on your ability to help the rest of your squad. And in a matter of nanoseconds, Cryax is headed back to the spawn room.
One thing that amazes me at this level of Overwatch is the decision making. How fast Light pulls out the Bob there to just entirely deny what was a fantastic disruptor shot. I mean, let's not leave that without saying how good it was, because it was perfect. Caught, I think, 3 players right there, and now Cryax with a real tough task, just passing the 1 minute mark.
And almost halfway already is Light with the ultimate. There it is. Another dynamite into that room could be critical. A great attempt, but it doesn't make the connection. You have that coalescence ready for this fight, and in an angle like this, it could be critical, but they have to focus on the payload.
Yeah, a little bit of a pause in the battle as now the re-engage comes.
Here's the coalescence. An eye in the sky looking to remove that player, Psy. No, Psy will be copied into that Moira. Now they have the option to bring out their own coalescence, their own enfeeble, if it's able to make a connection. But no, not enough time, not enough damage, ult charge, or anything in between. It does force out the rampage from Cuffit, because somehow everybody on Smoj is still alive.
That rampage doing so much work, but Smoj are there for the cleanup. It's Psy who does the hard yards. And now, I mean, Never Fade Away, I don't even know if they're going to be able to get onto the point. That's not going to happen. It's Cryax down, and Smoj take map number 2.
What a way to do it. I originally questioned that play by Psy to duplicate into the Moira, but it was actually the perfect move. It gave them that sustain they needed to last longer throughout that fight. And I think right here is that moment where the Dragon Blade was brought out by Never Fade Away the second they came through. But again, it shows that Psy had made those critical ultimate decisions, both on multiple roles, the Reaper and the Echo.
Yeah, I too was a little bit skeptical. I got to agree. I was like, the Moira, really? That's where we're going? But it did. I mean, it worked out. And in addition to that, we saw the Rampage come out just a little bit after that too. And so it actually came up to be the perfect timing. Right when the Moira was fading back into the Echo was when the Rampage came out, and the healing would have been nullified. So it really did work out timing-wise pretty perfectly, Los. And I got to say, I think that we saw the difference in playstyles. Cryax, you get them in those close angles, they're doing very well. Their composition works beautifully. But you give Psy some space, and it's terrifying.
Oh yeah, well, we have some time to get a little less shaken up from how fearful this squad is looking. We're going to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere. The NA Contenders Summer Series comes back after this. Welcome back to the Overwatch Contenders Summer Series here in North America. We wrapped up our first 2 maps. It's 1-1 Cryex looking a little worse for wear after that Eichenwald catastrophe for them. But we are introducing a new meta. It's the GOAT meta. It's like GOATs, but just one. It's Junker Queen. But we'll learn more about that as the series goes on. I'm Los, joined by Vincent. I pointed the wrong way. Joined by Vincent. And how are you feeling about this GOAT meta?
Hey, listen, I'm feeling good because it's a lot of fun to watch. If like we go into there and seeing the ability to have, I mean, Kuffa and Kindred both playing very well, but the ability to turn the fight with the Rampage is just massive. You can basically have one player down, I feel like, and it's still very winnable if you have Rampage online, especially if you hit 3+ with the anti. We're gonna have to figure out a way to differentiate, because one of these days there's gonna be a meta where Ana and Junker Queen are in the same composition, and then it's gonna be very confusing.
Yeah, I don't know. I was about to say, oh, call it a buff anti because she's buff, but that just doesn't make any sense at all. Well, everyone just gets perp. Everyone gets hit with the purple, and that's all that really matters. But talking about what matters right now is our next map. It's going to be Circuit Royale. We're heading over to Monaco.
That we are. It's gonna be a good time. This will be the first time getting to cast this map too, which is gonna be awesome as well. And I think that for me, there's a couple of things to look out for here. Sai, obviously, we saw the difference that Sai made for Smojan in that last map on Eichenwald, and I think we're probably going to see that difference coming into this one. The other side of that is I feel like, you know, Amazing Light, they're sort of bog standard. Like we know what to expect from them, but it's been a little bit hit or miss from Never Fade Away, and I need to see a little bit more.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. What I am liking this pick from Light, you know, they have been able to do some nice work on the hit scan, bringing out that Ashe capabilities, but I'm looking for some even more destructive abilities out of them because there's such a long sight lines that gives snipers a massive boost here on Circuit Royale.
That's exactly right. And, you know, very much, at least my thought process coming into the game today was, okay, so we're gonna be seeing some snipers if we get over to Escort, particularly here on Circuit Royale. And, well, I've not been let down. We have Light coming up on the Widowmaker, and I think that the thing that interests me the most though about Craig's composition is the Mei. How is this Mei going to jive? Is it going to jive? Of course, it's a good pick against this Genji, to be fair.
Oh yeah, and definitely you want to slow down that player when they go in for the dive, but I mean, we've got Sai already in a little bit of trouble. However, they will be the first one to follow. You would expect the Hunter got hunted. Never Fade Away, the first one to step up, and he'll follow up, because that's 3 dead here for Cryex.
And I said I needed to see more from Never Fade Away, so right there, here we go. Cryex indeed taking that first fight, keeping it real and amazing.
Oh. What
a great utilization of the power glide just to come around that corner and find the additional stagger kill zone towards Smojan. It's just going to take that much more time for them to get back in. You can see an additional swap there. Light, no more Widowmaker. It is going to be back over to the Ashe. And I think that does make a little bit more sense with the composition that they're running.
And you want to get up close and personal like we're about to see. Kuffa working with that crew side, keeping them inside this short room. That's what you want. You want everyone to feel the fury of that ice. Keeping them low. Oh, I thought that was a huge blade coming out from Kuffa, but no. It all goes to Light and Sai in this moment.
And this should be the confirm. See that? Yeah, should be the confirm. I got scared there for just a moment. And the good news is Sai getting up there, has the Blizzard ready as well. And the longer this fight goes on, the better it is for Smojan. I mean, maybe missing a shot or two close, but like I said, if it takes forever to get out, then that's actually good.
That was almost even worse because Wicca, she made, that was a heroic play by her to come and try and save your teammates, give them the speed boost, bounce on out of there. But honestly, I think it did the opposite effect that Cryex was hoping for.
I think they just wasted the commanding shout. Maybe a fat finger I'm not sure what happened for this Triac squad, but I think they're waiting on that cooldown. They need that to engage with this. They have both support ults as well.
Okay, a nice use of that wall just to slow down the play, try and block them off. But it is an ultimate fest so far, and it's kicked off by Cryax. Neptune did use that sound barrier, but it wasn't enough because the counter attack is very destructive. However, there was a good use of that rampage from Kuffa, but it simply wasn't enough.
That was near tragedy for Cryax there, because Wicca actually was beating Neptune, I think, to the sound barrier. But Neptune actually picked up the sound barrier because of them having to wait for the cooldown to come up. So Cryax getting a little lucky there, not to lose out. As here's some good ideas for you, Los. Do you know what corner this is supposed to be in Monaco? No, not an F1
Definitely,
fan? Okay.
definitely not.
Sorry.
Regardless, is Railgun time overclocked by Rye Mazing, but no one's lining up for them to get the hit, and it is also negated by Abyss tossing out that Transcendence, but in perfect timing to read right after that ultimate is used. It's Never Fade Away, who has stepped up tremendously, sparking that team kill.
Precisely, and I mean, it was literally the player that I talked about coming into this that I wanted to see more from, and it's a great usage of the Dragon Blade, teaming that up with Kindred, utilizing the Rampage, and suddenly we're looking at a 2 minutes 45. This is pretty darn good with Smoj walking in with little to nothing in the ultimate bank.
Oh yeah, but I mean, a lot that's being built up by Cryax. I mean, the closest one will be Sai, but this already with the loss of the Zenyatta, there isn't much hope. Sure, Sai can stay alive, possibly enough time for another commanding shout to be brought into play, but hiding behind that wall will do you no good. You will be whittled down by Cryax.
Oh, well, late on sound barrier from Wicca. That one's another one I'm not necessarily sure was necessary, but hey, does confirm the fight, and at the end of the day, if you win the fight and you get that point, probably going to be worthwhile, but it does leave Smoj in a really good position. Light swapping over onto the Sojourn once again is giving them some additional damage, and they're going to have the Rampage as well as the sound barrier themselves. And here's where Cryax would have really loved to have the sound barrier ready and waiting.
So this is going to be an interesting fight or internal decision making. When do you use the Coalescence if you're Korova? Because you don't want to be hit with that anti coming from Kuffa. So it's all about choosing your targets wisely and more about staying safe if you're the Moira. But now with the high ground in control, the Blizzard being utilized by Sai, the play has been slowed. And no one is exactly in the fighting distance except Sai, who committed getting too close to the opponents with that ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a giveaway of massive proportions from Smoj. They had everything in their hands, and they have unfortunately fumbled it.
No doubt, and with the Coalescence being utilized from an angle that there is no realization for Kuffa. They can't use the Rampage, but it's already gone. The Coalescence does find the value, and they have moved that payload quite a bit.
They have. I mean, the good news for Smoj is that they did make a big mistake here, but they have such a huge spawn advantage that it's not such a big deal.
Okay, overclock. Oh, just narrowly dodging it. Well, Sai doesn't have the quick feet for too long. It is a confirmed kill, but it will be Korova using that necrotic orb, sealing their fate, and they're only a few meters away from victory.
Never Fade Away with another big blade there in that moment. The Transcendent's gonna stall things for now.
Okay, good use of that Rampage. The main victim for that one will be Kuffa. That's exactly who you would want to keep alive if you have the Transcendence. Abyss does save some teammates, but not the ones who can save them. It should be a slow or a very fast finish because no one will be quick enough to get from the spawn, and Cryax will finish it off.
Overall, a pretty darn good push from Cryax, taking advantage of one or two things here, specifically Smoj doing some unfortunate timings there, coming back in. They didn't have the ultimates quite ready, and then what a big giveaway that was as we headed through the hotel. Smoj going to have to step up as we head in towards their own push. But talk about Never Fade Away. I mean,
oh my God.
What a difference maker. Really, she has just turned up massively.
Without a doubt. I mean, I think we just have to mention this multiple times. This is the player that we were looking for. The difference maker who had to step up. Certainly not the person who drops a Dragon Blade right into an opponent's Death Blossom to no avail, to just a real unfortunate scenario. But now I'm wondering, on the defensive side, will this Genji still bring in that value? Are you still going to have that maneuverability? And, you know, I'm thinking, yeah.
Oh, I think you're right. I think that is going to be the case. And the other thing, Crikes, they've shown that this is the composition that they are sticking with. They've shown that this is what they're comfortable with. And it was just some missed timings before that I think was really making the difference where Never Fade Away was struggling. But timing so critical, especially with the Rampage from Kindred, that has really come to fruition in this map. And as we head into the second half of it, that should probably continue.
You know, I'm still wondering if this May pick for Psy is the right move. Of course, it is good for zoning and keeping players away, but speaking of zoning, there goes the Disruptor, and it forces everyone from Smoj away, and it leaves Psy so vulnerable, but they're still sticking alive. They're still around, and in an opposite case, Never Fade Away is the first one to fall into this fight, leaving Kindred by themselves. Now the eventual pick apart using that wall will commence.
I mean, and you asked a fair question there. Is the wall going to be as effective? It wasn't particularly great back on that first half. This time, though, two massive walls in a row. I mean, first of all, splitting off, I think, 3 and 2 players for Crikes, and then the second wall to confirm the fight. It was perfectly played for Smoj. Now they have to find a way to re-engage here around the corner.
Oh, nice use of that Disruptor, keeping a few players stuck in the front, especially Kuffa, who's very low, and with that armor-piercing shot, along with Never Fade Away, the first line of defense is gone. Healers, supports running away for their life, Light using all the abilities they have to get away, but it's not enough.
And it's the duo Raimazing and Never Fade Away, both finding successful picks, though Smoj has actually farmed up pretty much both of their support ultimates. So I think the real interesting storyline is going to be coming into this next fight, right? How does Smoj utilize those support ultimates to deal with Raimazing and deal with the overclock that's coming their way?
I mean, I'm not exactly sure. I think it's all about trying to give yourself that positioning, stop the line of sight from being formed by Raimazing's overclock, but there's no way to do it. No way here, but I guess the truth is to use that enfeebling orb onto Raimazing when that overclock is in play, completely negating the ultimate, but Raimazing still able to bring in the power and the pain, and they'll continue to do so against Light.
Well, the additional coalesce here, just to add insult to injury, but this fight ain't over yet. What a quick regroup it was, and now without any ultimates, it's Never Fade Away who's got to be the one to make the moves.
Oh, the blizzard and wall is perfect, but just out of range. Every player caught in it had enough mobility to make the escape, and it was a regroup into a smaller corner. The tables turned again, Vincent. How many times will this happen?
Well, and we talked about there, you know, back on the control map, how Crikes, this comp works so much better in those smaller areas. And in addition to that, the target prioritization from Crikes was just a step better, one step higher. Smoj struggling to figure out who to be prioritizing first as they swap themselves over to a Genji.
Okay, starting things off with the Rampage. It's actually a double Rampage. The better Rampager wins, I guess. And that is certainly looking to be, well, it's unclear at this point. Kuffa, however, earning some more shots, getting hit with the Enfeeble, less damage coming out, but the Carnage is still rained down. And they'll finish that thing off along with Abyss.
So, you know, the irony there is that actually I think Kindred had a better Rampage, hit more players, but it was actually the rest of the abilities that Kuffa hit just didn't miss any cooldowns. Not a single one as they moved forward, and actually Light snuck out, swapped over to the Echo, and so now with the Echo Genji, I think this makes a lot more sense for this map.
Oh yeah, and that fight, if you could even call it that, just a double kill coming out from Light, ended it before it even started. And the mobility now that we're seeing from Smoj is absolutely crazy because it does put even more pressure. Raimazing has to deal with both of those high-flying players. Coalescence to start the fight. Not exactly the commanding shot that you would expect, followed up with an attempted disruptor to zone them, keep them away, stop the bleeding. But it is going to be enough to just try and remove one and get back to the payload.
I love that they went so aggressive there against Amazing, making sure to take them out. The re-engage is so quick.
Oh, they're not done yet. A coalescence of their own waiting to use that ultimate. Now it's an overclock coming in from Amazing, looking for the shot. Light so close to death, but they simply won't connect. And unfortunately, it doesn't give them the damage. It doesn't win them the fight. Sure, it keeps them in play and stops the advance, but it won't secure their safety.
No, I mean, what a long-term fight. I mean, we're talking about goats. This feels like it. Back and forth as we go. Now the Dragon Blade finally committed by Never Fade Away, but that's got nothing either.
Finally, they are running away. It is the supports making their last escape with that speed boost from Neptune, fade from Abyss. But even so, what a lengthy fight.
That it was, but look at what Smoge have walked away with here. They've got 4 ults on a line just about. And that is a stark comparison to what? I mean, Kindred
the angle,
approaching?
The rampage,
oh,
and there it is, cutting off Never Fade Away, and it forces them back into the hotel. And sure, it could be better. Sure, you could have gotten some eliminations, and that's what you would hope for. But even so, Never Fade Away must have been caught out of position, wasn't able to get the healing, and following it up, you have Light, who's taking on the role of the Queen. There's 3 in this party, and that is exactly what you don't want to deal with.
No, not at all. What a fantastic placement from Kuffa. 5 players hit with the Rampage, and that just forces the entirety of Smoge to walk backwards and then Crix to walk backwards and then re-engage when they can. What a great play coming through. And Kuffa essentially, I mean, it didn't win the fight for them because of that great disengagement, but it definitely set them up for success. And speaking of success, you might be seeing more of it here, because whilst Kindred is going to have the Rampage of their own, Neptune has a sound barrier. That is a quick cancel if you do the timing right.
Okay, Rampage right in front of your opponent. A bold strategy, but it's enough to follow it up. Crix looking to get that flawless team kill. Only Psy running away, but they're being hunted down as we speak.
Neptune's sound barrier got canceled. It was gone. Was in the middle of dropping the beat and no dice. Tragedy striking for Smoge's Crix. I mean, I said Kindred would have to be perfect, and he was.
Kindred followed up with that coalescence, ensuring there will be no death of the Queen. But of course, as I say that, there goes Kindred, but Kuffa falls all the same. Without any tanks on either side, it'll be Psy looking to get into this ninja duel, but no one will give up. No one is trying to have that extra space lost.
Yeah, Crix needed to get away there. They have the ult advantage. They probably know that, and they just want to retake that duel. The 30 seconds remaining, approaching the back half here.
Okay, double dragon. Everyone is hitting Q. This is the time to do it. Psy, the only one with an ultimate, and there they go. Losing out on your flanker. That'll make things a lot easier, especially now that you have Never Fade Away jumping into your face. Follow it up with the disruptor to keep everyone out of their position. And this is looking mad. Kuffa now away from the rest of the squad, but they've got the heels in tow. If they lose this, the Rampage is canceled. That is basically it. That's the fight for Smoke.
That's tragedy. Oh my goodness. Overtime ticking now. And the problem is the advantage of being so close to your spawn. It's so big for Crix.
Yeah, we have Light still might be able to manage this railgun shot because it's such low supports. They won't be able to make it back to the fight. Coalescence is at the ready, though, for Kurova. And that has to be the engager. Oh, and it starts off with Abyss, making sure that they're the first one to keep their players healed. Follow it up with a sound barrier from Neptune, and the health is unbound here for Smoge. But even so, they will be taking a major amount of damage. Kuffa, however, with the commanding shot, keeps them all alive. Side trying desperately to get in close and remove the enemy players with those Hellfire shotguns, but leave it up to Neptune for them to find the job.
Kindred with a great usage of the Rampage there. That might have been the turning point because it allows Amazing to have the space and time as overtime ticks away. It is. That's the turning point. What a crazy end to map number 3. But Cryx, by a margin of very little, are the ones to take it. And it was Amazing who is going to get the play of the game as well to end things out. And it actually is going to be this play. So we saw Amazing taking advantage of the Rampage, and everyone was already low.
All day from Amazing. What a fantastic map for them. Honestly, Circuit Royale easily has to be a highlight for this series for this player, and if they can continue the performance going into map 4, it feels like it's a shoo-in for Cryx.
Los, the thing that I have to bring back up though, for Amazing, listen, I'm not taking anything away from them, but Never Fade Away, difference between Eichenwald and Circuit Royale, wow. Talk about a step-up performance. I mean, this map is not Cryx without Never Fade Away, playing so well on the attack especially.
Oh yeah, I mean, that's personal improvement 100%, and you would love to see it. I'm very pleased with the Genji upgrades that we've seen so far, and it really shows you how close these players are getting in their faces. Just, woo! You can smell each other's breath with how close, how brawly these matches are getting, and you love it. But we're going to head into our 4th map. It's going to be Queen Street here for a push.
I know. I'm excited for it. I really enjoy this push game mode. I don't know about you, Los. What are your thoughts and opinions? But I'm a big fan.
It's a nice little tug of war. It's definitely a fresh pace here for Overwatch. Something that you want to have just a consistent neutral zone. It almost makes me think a little bit of a forerunner to Overwatch Team Fortress 2, where you have that neutral control, right?
Yeah, that's a good comparison. I'm sure. I haven't actually heard that one just yet, and I think that works very well. And well, we'll see how well these two teams work at it, because I'll tell you what, this can get a little bit snowbally at times. You start to lose out on some of that space. It's hard to gather it back, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, when you have momentum on your side with the bot that some haven't named yet, I'm going to put my name in the ring. Bingus, the bot, subject to fan approval. But yeah, no, when you have your the bot so far on your end, it just feels impossible to try and get it back to gain any forward momentum, any offensive play.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, you got to get control of Jeremy and keep control as we head into this one. Just a bit of a poke phase to start things out, but there is the engagement.
Yeah, I feel like with this new one tank meta, the poke phase does not last long at all, because we are barely seeing any shields. In fact, the only difference in tanks that we've seen is the minor use of Wrecking Ball to stall out points. But now, when a lot of damage was brought out by Amazing, it gave Never Fade Away the go light to just jump on through.
Yeah, I mean, that was just fantastic neutral gameplay there from Never Fade Away. Consistently able to get those kills moving, and in addition to that, I mean, Cryx, the engagements that we've been seeing from them consistently, I think Kindred, this may be a hot take, but I think Kindred doing a little bit better job of that. Though Kuffa in the mid fight has definitely had the better of Kindred overall, I think.
Okay, well, now it's time for Kuffa to try and keep that title. It starts off right here, a nice deflection. Kuffa taking a little bit of their own medicine to the face, and a nice blade. In fact, it'll bring over Kindred to keep them out of position. They don't have the chance to use the commanding shout. They're away from the sightline of the healers, and that's it.
That jagged blade, oh my goodness. That's tragic. Whenever that happens, you see it, and I mean, I get flashbacks to like Hook 1.0. You know? that's what happens. I'm like, scary, but
wake up, it's a nightmare. It's okay.
So I was not only going to be taking that fight, that duel, but they also were walking in here with Sai and Light having their ultimates just about ready, and they also have an answer for Never Fade Away if they do pull the blade of their own.
Okay, Coalescence.
No, they don't.
It's blade time for Side, but they dashed a little bit too far. They will find Wicca in the backline, but the trade is just too great, especially with Kurova's crucial Coalescence.
Oh my goodness, so much to think about there. So Neptune goes down before they can use the sound barrier, and that creates what is that Kurova Coalescence, the space for it, and Cryx with a bit of an easier fight win than I think was probably anticipated, considering how fast Neptune went down. But that does set things up for both support ultimates to be available here.
Oh my god, Never Fade Away wanted to have a dash in the backline, but Abyss just gave him a few orbs in the face, something they won't soon forget. But even so, the ultimate's committed Bob, keeping everyone away. Cryx has to back off for safety, at least until they're gone.
Amazing, doing a good job of making sure that Bob doesn't do too much damage, and the entirety of Cryx getting pushed back. It's all into Never Fade Away now.
I mean, that will be critical. They have made their way back to the fight, but this carnage from Kuffa, keeping them in that close quarters with that bus. No escape allowed and none given, but the sweet kiss of Vaughn.
Yeah, I mean, and with that, I mean, Craig's gonna have to move away. It's time to push just a little bit further. You see what I did there, Los? Very good. Neptune, thank you. Neptune coming up here has yet to be able to use this sound barrier, though. I gotta imagine they're gonna want to use this to engage or deal with Never Fade Away on this Dragon Blade.
Most likely will be the case, but I'm wondering what is going to be the condition for Never Fade Away to start things off. I mean, Kindred losing a life. You don't want to commit an ultimate to a losing battle already. Never Fade Away jumping, though, with the dash. But at this point, 2 players dead. Your queen is gone. The fight certainly is lost.
No doubt about it. It's been very back and forth, but Smudge doing a pretty good job. They're approaching the furthest that they've been, and that checkpoint as well. So if you are unfamiliar with Push, you hit these checkpoints and you get a better place to spawn from, and you're not going to be rolling backward for quite so far. Neptune still struggling to use the sound barrier. Finally, I think he's going to come in.
Okay, and at the same time, Sai does bring out the Dragon Blade. The ultimate's committed, and potentially the fight won, but Never Fade Away with a potential triple there. But at the end, their counterpart does find the success. Why amazing, though, the sole survivor is able to turn this bot around.
Yeah, right, amazing. Alongside Wicca, just walking with Theodore back the other direction. And Smoj gonna have to try and figure out a way back in. Neptune not getting as much value as they wanted, but as we see it though, Light coming up on another overclock and has been very good with that ultimate.
I mean, it's very useful. They will commit it, but they have to stay away from the front line. But even so, while it's being used, you've got the Transcendence there for the nullification. And as soon as they had control of the bot, they'll lose it again because the aggressive playstyle from Smoke.
Yeah, they literally just came in there instantly using the Transcendence from Abyss to create space, and Wicca had no choice but to throw down the sound barrier of their own. And the other thing to note is that Smoj overall, I mean, they are winning thus far. They've got a little bit further push, but they also have just been faster on these engagements. And I think when space is so critical, that's going to matter a lot.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, there isn't much space gained here from Cryx. Follow it up with the Rampage. Oh, their goose is cooked. No chance for the heals with the anti. I mean, just great placement from Kuffa, really.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I was saying for Kuffa. It's not necessarily like the huge Rampage. It's not like 5 players, but it is after that, the follow-up that's really been strong.
Okay, and now there are moments where Cryx can make this turnaround, but for the most part, it is because they have that closer spawn, so they're more likely to get back into the action once this fight begins. I mean, they do have a Coalescence to start things off, and that'll be it.
Coalescence does do big work. Kurova, how many times have we seen fights turned by that Coalescence? So consistent and has been building it very, very effectively, and I think that it is showing. I mean, Smoj, you see what they're playing here on the support line. It's been very good, but I want to see a little bit more from Abyss in particular. doing good damage, but definitely has teamed up both the Transcendence with the Sound Barrier a couple of times.
Yeah, it's just trading ultimates at this point. It never feels like there's a saving grace coming from Abyss. It's more just aggressive plays. But now I'm looking for Cryx. They've taken control of the bot, but now it's time to make a move. There again, Abyss finding that great use of the Transcendence to deny that Dragon Blade. But one is still dead. Neptune unable to provide more support with that Sound Barrier. But even so, Kindred will be the first one to fall. The Rampage misses. It doesn't give the ante. Light in the wrong side. No one there to support them. And it turns into a 3-on-3.
Yeah, but this isn't over. Not done yet. They might have wasted the ults. But Amazing has to step up.
Amazing, feeling so much pressure, but Neptune finally jumping around the fly has been swatted. And it does leave an opening against Kuffa. If Kuffa's removed out of play, they did have the commanding shout. They will save themselves, but if they lost their lives there, might have been a checkpoint guarantee.
Well, and we are getting low on time here. About 1:40 left into this one. And Korova popping up to yet another coalescence.
I mean, with the loss of light, we do have Kindred sending in that carnage in the Rampage, the Jagged Blade, everything in between to split the fight and give Never Fade Away a clear opening for the dive.
Yeah, and finally, this has been a difficult thing to find. It feels like consistently Cryx have never had that strong fight win. Smoke have been back quickly in all of these situations. This time, not so much, and they saved the Coalescence as well.
Now, this is going to be interesting as Psy's building up to that Dragon Blade. If they can turn it in their favor, or at least read the Dragon Blade coming. I mean, that's their one use, but it starts out with the Coalescence. It's Korova. Psy falls. The Dragon Blade doesn't have enough time to be built up and keeping your team alive, all while doing the damage with that Coalescence is critical.
Yeah, and look at this. Look at how close this is. Just about 10-meter difference as it's being pushed. And with 30 seconds remaining, this might be the turning point as we push past it. And it will be Cryx to take the lead and push this into their favor. With 20 seconds left, Smoke have to win this fight now.
Absolutely, and well, they've got ultimates to make sure this happens. Psy finally able to activate that Dragon Blade, jumping into the back line. Sure, they've gotten one, but that's all they'll be good for. They still have some major sustain when it comes to Kindred being able to utilize that commanding shout. But the Transcendence, however, keep them in. Wicca confirms it with the Sound Barrier, though. This fight is nowhere near done.
Yeah, I Never Fade Away, at least confirming Light down and out, and that's another ultimate not available.
Oh, follow it up with the Rampage. Kuffa locking down Wicca in the corner. It will all be up to Never Fade Away, but they will fade away.
And overtime's ticking, so at this point, Smoj, they have to push the additional 10+ meters, but it cannot be without leaving Benjamin all alone. You cannot get off of the bot.
And Light, not exactly with their team, but doing a good job sending out that poke damage to stop the fight before it begins. Kindred, though, in such a rough position, they will fall, or they might fall. I mean, this is just crazy. Healing finally. Psy does finish them off, but even so, it's just a critical play from Psy, looking at 3, maybe even 4 to follow things up.
And Psy realizing that they have to play around the bot. They have to play close in towards these angles. And so going to the Reaper makes a lot of sense in this scenario. The overtime ticking, Smoj might be sending us to a 5th. It's just about whether this last engagement can be successful with Kindred having the Rampage available.
That's going to be the main cause, and Kindred is the main focus of this fight. The Disruptor is on the bot, but it doesn't even matter. Anybody who walked up into the domain of Smoj, get near Barry the bot, will face death, and even worse fates than that. But there still is time. If you can stall enough for Cryx, they can allow for the rest of the team to get back and fight.
Oh, there it is. The Rampage comes through, but is it enough? It only hits 2, and Psy is denying.
With the Death Blossom in tow, the Coalescence to deny anyone from even thinking about getting to the bot. It will be Smoj in the last hour in overtime, bringing it all the way back to the opposite side for the victory.
Well, all they had to do was hold the hands of Oliver, walk him over, and pass the finish line, and that's what Smoj do. What a turnaround, coming all the way back. And I mean, listen, Los, I think that this goes to show exactly how good this game mode is.
Yeah, it's created some epic moments, some real tension as well between these two teams. It could have been all over, but Smoj had the ability to fight back, get back, and turn this into a win. And it all comes down to that proper targeting focus. The win condition in the end was keeping Kindred alive. Do not allow them to die. Smoj realized, well, we're gonna do the opposite of that.
Yeah, I mean, that really was. Kindred, I looked at the charge there, was 99% to the Rampage. Just one more percent, and it would have been over. I mean, that really could have turned the tide with everyone grouped up. Probably hit 3 at least with the Rampage, but no. And yes, Smoj with some great target prioritization. I talked about Cryx with that over on Circuit Royale, and it's now Smoj to show that they have that as well. But Los, we got to take a break. We're going to go to a short one. And then when we come back, we're going to have Lijiang Tower to close out this series. See you in a bit.
And we're back for the final map of the series. It's gonna be Control, and you know, I do want to say this. I said it in the beginning of the series, and it turns out I was right. We are going to Oasis. I was just reading the script backwards.
Oh, I understand. And see, I thought it was Lijiang because now Oasis is at night. You know, Lijiang used to be at night. We're both just bad at reading. That's how it happened. But
and
Oasis, listen, you know what? Why do people let us do this job, Los? I don't know. Oasis, though, I love this map. Arguable, I know, but I think this is one of the best Control maps because of how different each of the stages are. And I think that is going to be really cool, especially if we see University. I'm curious to know if we're going to see much of the same, especially for Smoj, because they've been the ones to adjust outside of the Junker Queen standard. You know, or I guess in fairness, it hasn't been the Junker Queen that they've moved away from. It has been the DPS that they've swapped up with Psy going towards, you know, this and that. The Reaper especially has been a pretty big turning point back there on push, and we're maybe going to see it again.
No, it definitely was a crucial play, at least with the Death Blossom in the very last moments of stopping those staggered plays, stopping an all-out charge when you're holding on to that objective. So it is a good pick, and Sai has definitely found some success, but I would say, I much prefer their capabilities on Echo. It's just honestly flashier and more effective, sure, but having Sai as a body on Reaper, it's a little bit easier for a brawl.
I mean, it certainly is. And we have been seeing quite a bit of brawl happening here. And I think we're going to see a little bit more. Never Fade Away on the Genji once again has been a difference maker before. Can we see that happen now?
Might be the case. A nice drop of that Disruptor coming in from Amazing, and it's almost like a counter zone bringing in from both teams. But now Crux will back around, go in for that re-engage. Starting it off, Kindred does miss the Carnage, and they're having a bit of a lack of focus of attention, while Amazing is having Free Fire being unopposed on the offense.
Yeah, this is a relatively pokey fight. We talked about brawl, but at distance, these two teams not quite committing. They want to be able to cap first.
It almost feels like the teams aren't playing poke. It's just Amazing and Light trying to find the first damage. And even though it's been going back and forth, nobody has fallen, save for Abyss. Now, of course, the second I say it, but following it up, that'll be a major blow to Smoke as the second one, Light, Sai, everyone in between will give Cryx control of this objective.
Listen, you lose your main source of healing. That's usually a good indication that you're going to be losing the fight. And that's what happens there for Smoke. Garova winning the battle with regard to the Coalescence as well. Though Neptune and Wika both have their support ultimate, the sound barrier ready to go. So for me, it really does beg the question, okay, what do the DPS do? What do you use at your Cryx coming in here? Because you need to make sure that you don't use too much.
No, of course, you don't want to make a major commitment, but hey, how about 2 ultimates to start things off, and that'll be okay. But you do have to worry about the Coalescence that Abyss will now have in play. And there it is. This is going to be an extended fight till everyone dies. Everyone has their ultimate. Everybody hits Q, but it's Cryx who will subdue their opponents.
And it's amazing for Cryx to do the big damage. Oh, there we go. See you later, Light. Gonna have to be taking the long route to spawn. Oh, we nearly got away. But yeah, what a great stopping power that Amazing was able to put down. Smoke sort of caught off guard. They used both of their support ults, but now it's that duel we've been talking about, the Junker Queen, Kuffa and Kindred. Who is gonna get the better?
Well, do have Kindred still stuck with their team, but I mean, that's a bit of an issue when you're losing out on Wicca. You'll lose out on Never Fade Away, and you're just gonna lose out on the fight.
Well, it was, asked if it was Kuffa or Kindred. Apparently it was Kuffa and Light. I should have known. Should have known. Light with the opening pick and Kuffa to close things down, but Kindred's kept their own rampage ready to go. And so that is what this re-engagement is going to be on.
Okay, Huge might have secured at least 3 there, but especially removing that ability to heal on the opponent's Junker Queen is critical, because there goes most of the sustain, there goes the front line, and it should be incredibly difficult for the rest of your squad to break on through.
And of course it is. Kindred keeping on to that rampage. It was the turning point, and now we're into a situation where Cryx have had the time to build up these DPS ultimates once again. Amazing, Never Fade Away. They're both coming up on a blade alongside of the overclock, and there's just no answers, right? I mean, Abyss is the only one who's going to have anything to work with.
I imagine Abyss will be the primary target. Get into the back line with the blade, and that'll be critical. Oh, Sai! Oh, Sai goes in with the dash, doesn't even have a blade, and this is just hell to reckon for the rest of Smoge. Press Q, and you hit 100%.
They pressed their Q buttons and they won. I mean, imagine that. Cryx, that was well played. It was incredibly well done with regard to their ult economy. They made the right decisions, keeping the rampage available for Kindred, and they only needed that one ultimate because Smoge were left with nothing. So as per the usual arrangement on Control, it came down to essentially that first ultimate fight and who was able to take the advantage there and carry it as they moved forward. But we are into stage number 2, and this could be Cryx taking the victory, Smoke going out, or maybe we're headed to a third. Let's get it underway.
Well, I think it does have to come to a bit more flanking from Psy. I mean, that last fight was determined by a straight-up dive, and it did not provide the value. But now Kindred, potentially the one who's initiating that flank. No, Smoj won't allow them. They don't want a good position to be created, yet Neptune will be the first one to fall in that counter-attack in the dive. Wicca, she's picking up 2 as the Lucio.
Yeah, Wicca doing so much work there. Look at the difference in the charge. 10% for Neptune, and Wicca's at 40. That is huge differentiation, and Wicca's going back to pick up the respawns. Smo's losing out on that fight as well. He's going to put them behind once again. But it is still, we're still not into the ultimate phase just yet. So, Smosh can just have a good engagement here. It's really about that commanding shout.
Comes down to this initial fight, though. I mean, Kappa is being bombarded. Maybe no chance for escape, especially with that disruptor getting stuck. You can't get around the corner for the rest of your support to give you that safety. With the loss of Kappa, that's the loss of the push.
And I know I just talked about it, but look at the difference in ult charge for Amazing and Light as well. Light got taken out early in that first fight, and it has been a problem, and it's going to continue to be with regard to Cryx, because they are building up to having the big ult advantage into this next fight.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, Amazing keeping that poke insane. The consistency from these shots are going to be wild, but keeping around this pillar does remove the effectiveness of that long range, so you do take that advantage and try and put it in your own perspective. And with 4 dead for Cryx, closing the gap with Kupfa to start was the perfect move.
And I talked about it before. It's all about that engagement, all about the commanding shout, getting in at the right time and catching Cryx off guard. And off guard, they were caught. This one, though, I mean, look up at the check marks. This is just going to be an ult fest. Who can get the big value? And Kindred, especially, having the Rampage ready.
Okay, overclock here from Amazing. Oh no, Neptune, no chance to build up into that sound barrier, and Psy again diving into the backline, but this time does have the Dragon Blade in hand. Will lose their life when you get too far away from your squad. You can't stick around too long, and that'll be another lesson learned, or a lesson unlearned by Psy.
This is now, this is really Cryx's game to win at this moment. As long as they can confirm this final kill, yeah, onto the piss. There we go, and the cap going over. As I say that, though, actually, Neptune's farmed up another sound barrier. I thought maybe they wouldn't have this ready, but that time that it took to clear up the point has given them a win condition. The sound barrier could deny Kindred this Rampage, and so it's really about Rampage taking the right timing.
Oh, that must have been 4, but that is going to be the sound barrier right back on top of it. So it will be able to keep them alive, but it does seem that is going to be a bit of an issue right now, as we will have some technical difficulties. But looking at the prelude to that fight with, I believe, 3 people hit with the anti from the Rampage, that was going to look difficult.
It wasn't 3, it was 5.
It was 5.
Yeah. Everyone got smacked with it. At least, if I'm not mistaken, maybe my eyes deceived me, Blows, but I'm almost certain it was everyone. And that's why I was worried. I mean, that's what I was talking about. The sound barrier did come down, though. So, chances. That's what it's about. And maybe we could see, I mean, Neptune has been very good with those timings. Might be able to save everybody. But, yeah, apologies for the technical hiccups here. We're getting things back as soon as we can. But I think, Los, that we're seeing the same thing play out here on Stage 2 that we saw on Stage 1 of Oasis. It's Cryx getting the early ult advantage by winning that initial fight and then taking that to the end. And if they do it correctly, then that might have been what happened. So we are going to be back in. Thankfully, it looks like we got a pause. It is 99% though. So this might be very fast.
It might be the case. Well, we got 3 seconds to wonder who is going to come out on top. But okay. No, it's gonna be Smoke. They just captured it. They're okay.
So Neptune saved him is what I'm hearing, and now we're back into basically just another neutral fight.
Yeah, right outside of the spawn of Cryox, though. Amazing, the first one to fall, but that won't be that big of an issue. However, when you're losing Abyss, now things can get a little bit dicey for the rest of Smoke.
Yeah, they've lost their main source of healing, and they don't have any ults to work with. They've just used the commanding shout as well.
Oh no, especially with light going down. You've got yourself split. You don't really have a way to escape. I mean, maybe you could use that Lucio speed to get you out, but where are you going to escape to? Your opponents are at 99%. You have to fight it out on the objective. Kuffa weakened, enfeebled even, and they have to back off.
Greg's coming up, Never Fade Away might have a blade. This could turn the fight as well as the Coalesce.
From Kurova, it'll get some damage and healing in, but you also have the sound barrier as well as Sai with the Dragon Blade, but they're all cut off. It will be a Dragon Blade popped of Cryx's own Never Fade Away, sending out the hits, but they don't result in eliminations.
Oh my goodness, everyone's pressing their Q button and nothing is coming of it. Kindred close, Kuffa close, but nothing there. 93% and ticking, and Sai might have just clutched this back with the double dash.
Might be the case, but Sai will fall themselves. Kurova doesn't want to jump into that
overtime.
Armageddon, and it will be procced by Wicca. She does manage to get it, but nobody is in any position to group up together. Everybody is staggering onto the objective. Here comes a rampage. Use it if you got it, but that use won't come to too much fruition, or maybe I'm just completely incorrect. Never Fade Away does take out the Queen counterpart and continues to find the shots as everybody jumps into their face. Kindred continuing to stay alive. The sustain is unbelievable. The healer is gone. Sai is gone, and they are retaking the objective.
And the overtime's gone. What a finale to the series. Oh my goodness. Cryx take it in 5. And it's Kindred once again. The clutch plays coming from the Queen herself.
My God. My queen, even. This has been a game, a series determined by the trials and tribulations, the triumphs from the Junker Queen plays, keeping this player in play. Having Kindred find those very crucial eliminations in the very last moment. The commanding shout to give, I believe it was Never Fade Away, the ability to stay alive with that extra sliver of health with the shotguns to stay in it. What a nail biter to finish.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to describe it other than just stupendous. I mean, that's just a magical moment. And I mean, this is round of 32, Los. This is round of 32. That's amazing. And in particular, I think, you know, we got to talk Wicca as well, because she did such a large amount of work on that Lucio. I mean, listen, Kindred was technically hitting the shots there at the end, but Wicca was enabling that, using the boost with regard to keeping them alive and healthy. But in addition to that, the speed and making sure that they can engage and disengage effectively around the pillar there in the middle of the point. All of that working wonderfully.
Yeah, no, this was just a phenomenal team all around. But I am just so blown away with the competition. As you said, this is the round of 32. We are going to have the round of 16 as things are only getting heated up tomorrow. And following that, it'll be, I believe, next week is when we'll have the rest of the playoffs, the upper bracket. All of Contenders will be continuing as this week unfolds. And it's just a whole lot of Overwatch Contenders excitement.
That it is. And well, make sure that you're tuning in. It's going to be on the same place right here. Let's take a look. And well, with that though, it's going to be it from us. Los, final thoughts before we go?
I just say, if this is going to be round of 32, what is waiting for us? What is waiting for the fans when we head into those playoffs? And personally, just maybe some different tanks. But regardless, thank you to everyone who pulled up, the fans at home, Cryx, Smoge, Vincent, of course, me, Blizzard, and Acrylic working on the production. Thank you so much for making this competition a reality. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow, and have a good night.
Okay.